Leadership Academy Foundations of Medical Education video series. Watch to learn what advice Dr. Meredith Holbrook would give someone considering becoming GME faculty.
Hello, my name is Meredith Holbrook. I am a child and adolescent psychiatrist and work for Aspirus Healthcare up in northern Wisconsin. I have been involved in GME for about 5 or so years at this point.
How did you get engaged with GME later in your career when you had not previously intended to teach?
It kind of intimidated me, the whole idea, in part because I am not like the super most organized human being on the face of the planet. I don't particularly love talking in front of other people. I'm really not good at giving PowerPoints or anything like that. However, I had gone to undergrad over at Carroll University, which is a small school in Waukesha. And they had approached me at the time to just work with some PA students from there. And, kind of feeling a little nostalgic, I decided, sure, why not? Having one person just kind of hang out with me for a little bit might not be so bad. And that later developed into working with some medical students and then now with residents.
What do you think are advantages/disadvantages to this timing?
I really was happy to get involved at this point in my career because then I could really gain a little bit more self-confidence in what I was doing and, some idea of what I was saying. And to actually, I think as part of that, have enough confidence to say, you know what, I don't really know. Let's go look this up together. Let's try to figure this out. I guess if you're like really super gung-ho about teaching, it would be more advantageous to get into it earlier in your career. I guess, it just really depends on what you enjoy, the timing that works for you.
Was there anything you thought you would need to do as GME faculty, and how did that compare to the reality?
I'd have to say it was like having to have some really super organized little packet or handbook to hand to people that I had to kind of go and talk about. That was really my biggest fear because, again, organization is not really my thing. I just prefer much more just in the moment sort of teaching and conversing and things like that, because I personally do learn a lot better too, just doing rather than listening, reading, and that sort of thing.
What are some of the challenges you faced as a new faculty member, and how did you overcome them?
Honestly, just looking back, I really can't think of anything because it's really not that difficult. And I think probably the most annoying part of it, and I think it's just part of, just what is required, is filling out surveys, or filling out the ratings of students and things like that. And I think that can be made better if you kind of clarify what the expectations are for, a resident in this certain level, of training and such.
What keeps you engaged as faculty?
Is that just, really there's just this constant opportunity to learn and to just kind of remind yourself what is the case, and double check what you had learned in the past, look at if there's anything new, if there's anything you might not have understood perfectly. And that just really keeps you a lot sharper. It also just kind of, I don't know, it can be just really fun. I've found that all the residents are very engaging, that they're really, I've been impressed by kind of just their level of just interest and, willingness to just kind of get in there and do things. And I think they really actually do thrive on going in there and doing things as opposed to just sitting and watching and letting their brain just fall asleep.
What advice would you give someone considering becoming a GME faculty?
Remembering that they are going to be your colleagues in the future. And, actually they're rather delightful, bright people, and, kind of getting to know them and, kind of helping them develop their strengths, it can be great. And in addition, it is kind of like a help in your day-to-day practice as well. It kind of gives you an opportunity to be able to think about some of the things that, you'd like to brush up on, or kind of really points out those things that, hey, I thought I knew this, but, it's been about 5 years since I've really looked into it. It really gives you that opportunity.
What was your biggest fear when you got started teaching, and how did that compare to the reality of teaching?
First of all, being stuck in a bunch of meetings. To me, that's close to death itself, pretty much. Or that I would have to go to all these little activities and such, where I've got, a pretty young family, believe it or not. And, I just really like to devote my time to my family. And I just didn't want it to like just take up all of my time. And I'd be putting in all this extra work when I've already like working a ton as it is. And it really, honestly, I feel like has kind of almost diminished my workload in some ways, honestly. So, and I think another fear that people have, and, just me being a pragmatic person, is, okay, am I going to take a pay cut? Because like, if you're anything like me, you're a very productive person. But, in fact, you can make things work out for yourself one way or the other. And, you don't really have to worry so much. There's many ways you can be creative. I don't think anyone necessarily expects you to take like an absolute certain rigid model. I know that they were very, very open to hearing whatever I was willing to do, whatever I felt comfortable doing. And I think that's about it. So, I mean, really, there's no reason not to, in my mind, especially coming from someone who's like so teaching adverse initially.
Leadership Academy Foundations of Medical Education video series.